meeting. During the middle of the meeting, they suspended and ran out the back door.
Risk, that is shameful. A Conservative notice of motion has been filed condemning this misconduct. The Liberal chair must decide, is he a political operative serving the government or an impartial chair?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
It's too bad that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that is built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Canada know that this government has their back. It will continue. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer.
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest and
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
the meeting, suspended, ran out the back door.
A Conservative notice of motion has been filed condemning this misconduct. The Liberal chair must decide, is he a political operative serving the government or an impartial chair serving this country?
Here to do. Right now, members of the Transport Committee are being denied that opportunity to work and serve. Liberal MPs are obstructing our work because they don't want to hear the testimony of victims in our study of unsafe truck driving practices. Voting against our motion to hear from victims is the Liberals' democratic right. However, cancelling meetings to avoid a vote? It isn't just wrong, it's undemocratic. Enough is enough. Liberal members of the Transport Committee need to fulfill their democratic responsibility, let victims be heard, and let parliamentarians get back to work. Hi guys, here we are right in Transportation Room. We had the most unbelievable thing happen here. The chair got up saying we're just going to pause for a moment to switch interpreters, and then the entire Liberal bench just got up and left. Liberals may not want to work, but Conservatives do. Dan, over to you, my friend.
You know what? All we want to do is hear from victims of issues we have with the trucking sector. These people have had family members, or in their own case, where they've suffered greatly, and we wanted to hear from them, and so we can make recommendations to make our roads safer. Connie?
Well, there's a lot of concerns. We're here to hear them, but obviously the Liberals are not, and just letting everyone know, we're here to work.
You know, this Liberal filibuster is quite arrogant. There's been more time wasted on that than in the time we could have heard from the victims themselves. And so we're here. We want to get through this and get on to many other important issues in the transportation sector. And we hope the Liberals come back and end this and move forward.
If you happen to see Peter Schiffke anywhere on the street, if you could please let him know to get back to work, that would be great. Thanks very much. It's Philip Lawrence, because we care and we'll keep working.
The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Chair of the Transportation Committee. The Liberals, with Canada Post, has given a great many contracts to certain companies, and for over a month, the chair of the committee has forced us to use emergency measures to make him do his work. Will the chair of the committee finally call a meeting next Tuesday, or will the chair continue to hide behind his minister?
Transport Committee, the member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna. Le comportement du président libéral démontre un mépris pour cette ensuite.
Mr. Speaker, this government has shown contempt for the committee. It has the chair has continued to suspend the committee for so-called technical reasons, and it never came back. This is an abuse of power. We're talking about road safety and the safety of Canadians. This is serious and urgent. The Liberal chair must decide whether he is at the service of the government or at the service of Canadians. The Honourable Member for Beauce. Mr. Speaker, I have finally gotten a decent answer. The Minister of Transport has ordered members to harm the work of the committee through Liberal filibustering. This is a waste of money. It's throwing money out the window. Why is the Minister trying to avoid transparency? Why is the Minister trying to hide the truth from Canadians? Why is the Minister sanctioning these obstructionary tactics? Why is the Minister preventing the committee from doing its work, which is harming the road safety of people in Beauce?
Mr. Speaker, we are unwavering in our support for victims and their families that have been impacted by the exploitation and illegal operation with the trucking industry. Now, the Conservatives are always looking to block things in committee. In this particular committee, Mr. Speaker, they have an opportunity to focus on solutions, yet they bring up problems, like they bring up problems here. When the time comes, Mr. Speaker, to vote on solutions for Canadians, they bring up the problem, vote against the solution every single time.
The Honourable Member for Northumberland Clark.
Through the chair of the Transportation Committee, it shouldn't take opposition parties calling emergency meetings to get a parliamentary committee just to meet like they're supposed to. But that's exactly what the opposition parties have been forced to do. When we did have a meeting, during the middle of the meeting, they suspended and ran out the back door. So will the chair confirm that there are scheduled meetings, or will it just run out the back door again?
Vice Chair of the Transport Committee.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal chair's conduct shows contempt for this institution. He has refused to convene meetings 3 times and even suspended one for technical reasons before leaving, never to return. Worse, a Liberal MP has been filibustering for the past month, not only resisting hearing from victims, but deliberately delaying recommendations that could save lives. Every day those recommendations are stalled, they put Canadians at risk. That is shameful. A Conservative notice of motion has been filed condemning this misconduct. The Liberal chair must decide, is he a political operative serving the government or an impartial chair serving this country?
Looking to block things in committee. In this particular committee, Mr. Speaker, they have an opportunity to focus on solutions, yet they bring up problems, like they bring up problems here. When the time comes, Mr. Speaker, to vote on solutions for Canadians, they bring up the problem, vote against the solution every single time.
A meeting. During the middle of the meeting, they suspended and ran out the back door.
This risk, that is shameful. A Conservative notice of motion has been filed condemning this misconduct. The Liberal chair must decide, is he a political operative serving the government or an impartial chair?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
It's too bad that that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Canada know that this government has their back. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Hey, of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest and telling.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
Check. There we go. That's much better. Welcome to the NAP, the no answer period, where we cover the question period, prefaced by a review of what is going on, mostly in Canada and in some other parts of the planet, stuff that all seems to be happening at the same time. I hope you had a good weekend. I certainly was busy. As you see, we did put out a couple of videos over the weekend. One of them played, if you were actually tuned in prior, which is the last video we put out. Where was that one on Saturday? Losing track. It was the tag team that happened on Friday within Parliament between a couple of members that were part of a committee that met, or I should say tried to meet, obviously, because the committee chair said, yeah, we're just going to pause for a moment to unscrew some comms issues, and then they left, just absconded out. And then if you saw the video, you've got the Liberal side saying the Conservatives were disrupting and blocking, and meanwhile, they just decided not to show up. So apparently there was a notice of motion that they said they were going to put in. So let us go to the show. Transition. There we go. The House has an order paper. Well, let's go back one page here. All right, so the order paper and notice paper gets published every day, and it's order of business, orders of the day, private members' businesses go all the way through. And notice paper, you've got the notice paper and report stage of bills. And this is everything since the last election. And they're basically updating the status on each of these things. And I've gone through, and I haven't seen this paper notice of motion put in. Maybe I'm looking in the wrong spot, not sure. But then again, this is published by the leader of the House, I believe, on the Liberal side. So, of course, they have to go through that first. It's not to say that maybe they had the notice of motion and maybe they're working it out behind the scenes saying, hey, well, we'll just we'll make sure the committee chair is there today. So we don't need to staff this. Who knows? Who knows what's going on? I don't know. But if we do go, to Parliament, let's refresh this today. And we've already had one committee canceled, and one is in progress. This one had started earlier and then went straight into adjournment. And as you can see, these other ones here have adjourned as well. And they were just starting at 11 this morning. And yeah, kind of weird. So it looks like there's a lot of things not happening within Parliament, and the bills that they are trying to put through, rife with issues. So let's get into it, shall we? As usual, we like to remind everyone that mainstream media out there is controlled by the Liberal government through the Qualified Canadian Journalism Organization tax credit system that allows them to fund their staff up to close to 30 grand a year of your tax dollars. That's right. This is the only way this media can stay alive because they are shrinking. They also include the Dead Tree Media. And as you know, they have been controlling the message on behalf of the Liberals. And you can just observe the bias at any time just by asking yourself all the stuff that they are covering about one particular party, why are they not giving the equal coverage to the other parties? Very interesting. Very interesting that they always have nothing but sugar to give for their daddies. So, Bruce McGonigal here had this post. It's a friendly reminder. This is an update for the ostrich situation and the fallout since then from that. A reminder the RCMP told Canadians and the world it couldn't stop Chinese foreign interference or money laundering due to lack of resources. However, in 2025, the RCMP deployed upwards of 100 officers. Yeah, full company of RCMP, 3 different shifts at the Universal Ostrich Farm for an extended period of time, all as a show of force to protect the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, who then savagely slaughtered 300 plus ostriches, well, 398 in rural BC, shooting them in the dark. And of course, at this one time, we know that it had already been destroying some of the ostriches, perhaps crunching them down and rendering down. But it was kind of hard, right? Because they were fencing off the entire area. They wouldn't allow any drones to fly over top. They were working in dark, as authoritarians always do. That same CFIA wouldn't test the ostriches for H5N1, decided not to cull peacocks nearby in BC because they tested negative for H5N1. Oh, maybe they did learn something from the ostrich situation, as in maybe being a little less evil. So, can we all stop pretending our police and government are protecting us? They're actually protecting the CCP, that's the Chinese Communist Party, Big Pharma, and liberal government. We pay for these clowns. Disgraceful. Indeed. That is your ostrich update. Except for this other one here, Save Our Ostriches from the Ostrich Farm BC, which is the resulting of this situation. Here we go. Animal Justice is releasing thousands of pages of government documents that painted a distressing picture of Canada's response to the 2022 outbreak of avian influenza, where more than 11 million birds were killed. These records, which include internal Canadian Food Inspection Agency CFIA field notes, memos, emails, are now publicly available for journalists and researchers. The documents obtained through access to information requests expose previously unknown details about CFIA's response to the avian flu, which relied heavily on third-party contractors conducting mass killings with little oversight. Yes, it's just a big death machine. Release the death machine! Now, here we go. Look at this. This was in response to another post that happened, and it kind of makes sense. So you look at this. The UN Global Compact for Migration was the ruse for mass migration invasion agenda. European Caucasians were replaced with Banana Republic migrants who brought their third world standards. In 25 years, Caucasians will be 25% visible minority. Canada died. We live in CUN80. Canada. And we just have to look at the numbers. Now, if you look in Calgary, school figures are coming out, and it's, well, 1 in 3 students and don't require an interpreter. Yeah, so they're having to hire interpreters because there's too many people that just can't speak English in school. And it's not surprising, seeing as the federal government's been using interpreters in Gagetown with people who've apparently already passed recruiting and are in battle school, because we don't vet people anymore, let alone to come into the country, let alone to even get into the Canadian Armed Forces, right? Oh no, we'll just download all that responsibility to the organizations. Right? That's how the Liberals work. We have all these great ideas, and then when it doesn't get, when they pass the law to make it happen, or they push their policy to make it happen, and it fails, they blame the people that they pushed it on, who never asked for it in the first place. Now, that was just a little prep for this. Bakes on things. Let's listen to this, just a little short piece here.
Either. How in the world do you miss 38% of a segment of a population? Not 3%, not 8%, 38%. Because that's exactly what Statistics Canada just admitted happened by accident in 2021's census. They missed 38% of non-permanent residents living in Canada. 38. And before anyone shrugs and pretends that's just a small technical glitch, let's be very clear. Let's be crystal clear. This is not a rounding error. This is not some low-stakes oversight buried in a spreadsheet. This is an institutional faceplant that has completely warped our understanding of the biggest, fastest-growing segment, liberal-obsessed segment of the Canada's population entirely. These people voted, and they weren't even accounted for as citizens. A segment that determines housing demand, healthcare demand, provincial funding formulas, transit planning, classroom capacity planning, labor market projections, and of course, Ottawa's favorite game of all, immigration targets, caps, and quotas. This was all a huge mess, and it's just being admitted to 4 years later. Canada, we didn't just underestimate a few thousand people here. We underaccounted over 1/3 of an entire population group that now drives almost all of our population growth, our government's decisions, and even drove some of our downfall.
We warned the Liberals would do this back in 2015 when you first elected them back in. We warned you that they would go insane on immigration policy, which they have had in spades. Bit by bit, they crept up. Once the COVIDity stupidity hit, they knew that, oh my God, everybody's locked indoors. We can do anything we want now. And they have turned on the spigot full blast. And there we go. Everything the Liberals touch turns to shit. Absolutely everything. There's not a single thing that they have done that hasn't ended up hurting someone else. Oh, we want to help everybody. We want to invest in you, investing and spending for these people. They look at a debt and they reallocate it and say that it's an investment. They're insane. Speaking of the insanity, Vote Canada had a bit of a diatribe, and I told them I would read this on the stream today because it is excellent. Let's go. Canada in the late 2025 carries all the hallmarks of a banana republic, wearing a polite mask and a toque. A former Goldman Sachs executive and Brookfield chairman who never faced a single voter in his life parachuted into the Prime Minister's office after a staged leadership contest, then promptly arranged $500 million subsidies for steel company that feeds power from his own former firm's wind farms while laying off Canadian workers. His personal stock options rise with every taxpayer check, yet the ethics commissioner shrugs, and the opposition is told to wait for another commission that everyone knows will deliver a leather-bound nothing burger in 2031. 2031, yes, 6 years. Why 6 years, you ask? Oh, what if you've been paying attention to the news? You would realize that something came out in the Toronto Red Star. Yes, Toronto Red Star. Even a stop clock is right twice a day. And of course, this is something that the Bloc Québécois also dug up. So I expect this to be talked about in question period today. Certain hidden legislation that allows his ministers to basically arbitrarily decide what to hide from the public. And you can't even question it and even look into it for 6 years. 6 years! And then after the 6 years, you might find out that, no, they were just doing it to enrich themselves, and then it's too late. Yes, this is insane. The police now operate like hired muscle, for which side occupies the government benches. Peaceful truckers who blocked a road for 3 weeks were met with riot squads, frozen bank accounts, and multi-year prison sentences, while parades glorifying political assassinations roll through city streets untouched because the organizers vote the right way. Maybe that's part of that 38%. Officers caught on camera beating protesters or hiding in group chat full of racist slurs are quietly transferred or given paid leave. Then promoted. The phrase, just doing my job, has replaced sorry as the national apology. Just doing my job, which is just, the same thing as just following orders. Parliamentary democracy has been reduced to a minority government kept alive by separatist votes and floor crossers lured with cabinet posts. Bills that would gag clergy for reading centuries-old texts sail through with standing ovations from the same people who lecture the world about tolerance. A new law lets Cabinet waive any regulation it dislikes for any project it favors, which somehow always seems to involve friends of the regime. Eh, Brookfield? Public inquiries into foreign interference, ethics breaches, and green energy grift are announced with great solemnity, staffed with loyal former staffers, and time to report long after the next election. Billions vanish overseas to wars and pet projects while veterans sleep in tents. Emergency rooms turn people away for lack of staff. The census mysteriously lost track of 1 million non-citizens. The debt climbs past $500 billion in new spending, and the governing party's response is to mail larger checks to the same public servants who keep the machine humming. Useful idiots in the press gallery repeat the daily talking points with the enthusiasm of game show hosts because their funding depends on not asking the obvious questions. On the world stage, Canada is no longer taken seriously. It is pitied and ignored. Leaders who once sought Ottawa's opinion now schedule meetings around it, the way one avoids the drunk uncle at a wedding. The Maple Leaf has become a cautionary tale, a country that prided itself on institutions, competence, and quiet decency slowly auctioned every piece of itself to the highest connected bidder, then acted shocked when buyers turned the place into a private plantation with better winter tires. The tragedy is that the slide was entirely self-inflicted. No invasion, no coup, just decades of trading principle for convenience, merit for loyalty, and accountability for another blue ribbon panel. The result is a nation that still looks orderly from 30,000 feet, but feels like a rigged casino once you're on the floor. The house always wins. The croupiers are all related to the owner, and the customers are told to be grateful they still get free non-alcoholic drinks. That is modern Canada, a banana republic that kept the snow, lost the dignity, and still insists on apologizing while picking your pocket. Good little spin. All right. A little video for you here. Right. So we were talking about this bill that is going to allow the ministers to do whatever the hell they want. So over at Northern Perspective, they've broken it down just a bit. If you want to see the whole video, please go and watch theirs. We're just going to watch this little part.
If they want it to be corrupt. So one is the Lobbying Act exemption. So a company, could be allowed to lobby secretly without registering. Conflicts of Interest Act, which we talked about this before. A minister exempts themselves, a donor, or a friend from conflict rules, so you don't have to disclose anything. What if they look at the Canada Elections Act and a friendly corporation of the Liberals is allowed to exceed spending limits or run unreported ads? Wouldn't that be handy? The Access to Information Act exemption. So a department or corporation, as we mentioned with Brookfield, could be exempted from disclosure. So they could be allowed to hide documents. Or Competition Act exemptions. Politically favored company is allowed to bypass anti-monopoly controls. That would be helpful, wouldn't it? Environmental Fisheries Species of Risk Act. So a donor's mining or energy project is exempted from all the environmental laws. Probably not a good thing for the environment. The Income Tax Act. Now, you can't stop a company from paying its taxes, but they could be avoided from certain reporting rules or even penalties. Treasury Board procurement and contracting rules. Corporation could be given a sole source contract without competition, and this would be completely legal, and no one could be fired, no one could be reprimanded of it. And then when you start layering on all of these different things, so what if a company gets a sole source contract and is lobbied to do that secretly? Now you don't have to disclose any documents through the Access to Information Act, and
well, there's all kinds of shenanigans they can get involved in. And as he points out, This is going to go to committee. It'll probably get torn to shreds. And I'm sure none of the opposition's party are going to be pretty happy with this either. It remains. Like, why would you put this in a bill? Why would you do this? Why? Because you were hoping to get it through. And they stuck it inside an omnibus bill. Yeah. They try to hide it amongst 6,000 pages to give their ministers a secret power. This is the Liberals. This is how they act. This is what they do. Absolutely every little single dirty trick they can to hold on to power. Because it's not about Canadians. It's not about serving Canada. It's about serving themselves. Let's listen to a bit of Hillier Investigates here. Why is a Liberal a Liberal?
Did you really think that you chose your vote? If you share just one video before the election, make sure it is this one. Because chances are it's not going to be around for long. So you thought you decided to vote Liberal on your own. But what if I told you Beijing made that decision for you? With surgically placed influence dating back as far as 2019. In 2019, Canada's own intelligence agency, CSIS, confirmed that the Chinese Communist Party was interfering with our election. Intelligence report right there. What was the weapon? Fear and division. Proven tactics and a signature of the CCP. They pushed a narrative framing Conservatives as Trump-like, if you wonder where that came from, to fracture Canadians and secure Liberal victory. And standing at the crossroads of Canadian politics and Beijing's interest is Mark Carney. Let's look at the timeline that they...
Yeah, and even if you're watching the mainstream media today, they're still using the same tactics. Always constantly referring to the opposition as Trump-like or MAGA, MAGA this, MAGA that, MAGA. They can't help themselves. They can't stop because they're following their Chinese masters. They're following the plan to continue to foster hate and division within the Canadian culture instead of having them focused on all the buffoonery that the Liberals are doing while they're picking their pockets and have added $1 trillion of debt that is costing us $10 million an hour in interest payments. $10 million an hour. We're seeing people come out saying, oh, look, they wasted $1.7 million here, $2.7 million there. Drop in a bucket compared to the $10 million an hour we're paying in interest. That's 13 cents on every dollar collected. And I don't even know if they're even collecting that much now with all the businesses dying and people leaving the country and industry also leaving the country. So that means that next year's tax revenue is going to be even less. So it's going to be more than 13 cents on a dollar. And let alone all the spending that's been added since these clowns got back into power in April, thanks to the El Bozos out there who said, oh, MAGA, oh, Trump, oh, no, we need to vote the same abusers back in who've been screwing us over the past 10 years. Good idea, guys. Great idea. And what do we get? Oh, yeah, we've gotten a lot. And we're not done getting our gifts for Christmas. Did I say gifts or grifts? I think they both apply. Now, of course, one of the big things about industry, because they all follow the same pattern of continually picking the pocket of the consumer, right? Because they can't just make something that's going to last as long as possible. You know, there was this German glass company in East Germany when they were under Soviet control as part of the USSR. They're still, remaining themselves as East Germany, but still, they were a part of the Cold War regime, all that whole Soviet bloc. But anyways, they decided that they were going to create indestructible glass, and they did. They were able to rearrange the molecules in there, so they were shaped as hex shaped in their molecular stage. And anyway, it allowed a lot of flexibility in the glass, and you could see they would be dropping these glasses, and they'd warp and move, but they wouldn't break. It's great. So they started selling to all these restaurants, and people started buying them, and then they went out of business because they made a product that was so good they didn't need replacements. Now that people can still find these online, they're hard to find. They're still indestructible. They're still around. I think they started making them in the 1960s. So we do have the technology to make stuff that lasts forever, but nope, can't do that because the way our entire system is run to ensure that some people always stay at the top, super rich, and while they continue to manipulate everyone. And in Canada, here we are, one of the richest countries on the planet. We could be even richer than Saudi Arabia if we properly exploited our natural resources. Saudi Arabia, nobody works. They just hand wealth to people. Their own version of UBI. Of course, they're almost done though, because they've already passed peak oil. They're already sneaking in foreign oil to subsidize the oil that they can't make, repackaging it and selling it as Saudi oil, just so they can keep the grift going on their own. That's their only natural resource. We as Canada, we just done it to ourselves. We said, no, we're gonna go back to the Stone Age. Yeah. Yeah, no more development. To make everybody poor and dependent on the crumbs, and we'll all give them a small slice of the salami hanging in the butcher shop. But in order to do these things, one of the slices that they are doing right now is getting rid of the radio in your car.
The walled garden. For generations, the car radio has been a great equalizer, free, local, and open to all. It delivers news, weather alerts, and community updates instantly, and of course, local sports. No subscription or data plan required. But as vehicles become software platforms, automakers are rewriting the rules. Of course, there's money involved in that. They're no longer just selling you cars. They're building digital ecosystems for you by removing AM and FM radio and blocking third-party apps like CarPlay and Android Auto. They funnel drivers into closed environments where they alone decide what content is available. Not good at all. And this isn't about innovation. It's about revenue and control. And when the control extends to the dashboard, where 84% of Americans still listen to broadcast radio each week, the stakes go far beyond consumer choice. Even I have a radio show called The Drive with Lauren and Carl. It's on AM and FM radio stations across the country. If you want to listen to it, you're going to have to go search it out if the algorithm will let you. But what's really at stake? When the power goes out, when the cell towers fail, when the internet connections drop, broadcast radio keeps transmitting. It remains the backbone of America's emergency alert system, reaching 272 million listeners each week. And FEMA, the Department of Homeland Security, and emergency managers nationwide all rely on AM radio as critical communicators for the infrastructure.
Yeah, and they got rid of AM radios out of cars, didn't they? Indeed. Before they did it, let's see, when was that? That would have been the 1970s, late 70s. I think they started being able to create stereo AM. There was actually some AM stations that were actually able to broadcast stereo. There's very few. It never caught on, of course, because FM was taking over at the time. But there you go. And it's not just that kind of obsolescence that they're factoring in. Because, I mean, when we're looking at vehicles, honestly, really, all we want is maybe some air conditioning that works and cruise control. Everything else is like, yes, we need wipers. Like all the standard stuff that came with vehicles before they started adding all the bells and whistles. But all this other crap that they're putting in, of course, they probably lobbied the governments to make it law so that these things have to be part of a vehicle now when they're manufactured or sold within the country, or even some cases not even being allowed to import it to sell it. That is, there's still people that can do purchases outside the country and then bring them in on their own. Sometimes they have to do some modifications to these vehicles in order to bring them up to the standard. But the fact is, bit by bit, just taking away everything. We have this other, there it is right there. Let's look at this first, because it is related to what we were just talking about. Edison Motors out in BC, one of the last industrialists that we have in Canada, and the government there is doing everything they can to try to destroy their business by not including them in the very system that they have adapted to their trucks. So what they've done is they've developed these vehicles, logging trucks, that store the energy back into the vehicle through transformer rectifier into the battery, and then they can reuse that power again. So they're actually very efficient. And when they wanted to get involved in the subsidy scheme that the province was setting up to try to help new businesses, they went to whatever organization the government hired, and then that organization said, "Oh yeah, well here's a plan for you and everything." Well, no, it says we already have a plan. We don't need all your stuff. We just want access to it. And because they wouldn't allow this group to process them, they were denied access to this entire plan. Now, of course, this this has been ignored by the news mostly. Moose on the Loose covered it last year, but they're still alive. They're still working. Now let's hear them talk about planned obsolescence.
This is horseshit. Now, to start with, I have seen this in our trucking career, and me and Eric had a trucking company. We had a truck, needed a new turn signal. My turn signal stopped working. Pretty important on a truck. Can't go to work without it. I go to buy a turn signal. They tell me that this turn signal, it's molded into this plastic steering column. So in order to replace that, I needed the one that goes with the molded plastic steering column, the custom mold, and it's CAN bus and it plugs in and it works off of that. You need that specific one. Whereas back in the day, do you realize that all of these trucks behind me, this 1962 Kenworth has the exact same turn signal as this 1984 Kenworth, and has the exact same turn signal as this 1998 Kenworth. My 2010 Western Star had that exact same turn signal. That's a common turn signal. It's been in trucks for years. It costs about $40 to $50. They're normally in every Lordco, every little local parts, Napa, distributor, the dealership would have them in stock. They didn't have this custom one for my truck. We had to wait 2 days to get that turn signal in. You add up the $500 turn signal, then you add up the $3,000 a day that we were missing in lost revenue from having that truck down, and that is a $6,500 turn signal that cost us that I should have bought for $40 and had on the shelf. It's just, this is becoming stupid out there. They are pushing the middle class out of work. It used to be you were able to buy a truck. Old Blue, that 1969 Kenworth we got back there, I bought that off the original owner in 1969 who bought it. Old Bob Murphy. Bob Murphy bought it, he restored it. Now it may be a bit of a truck of Theseus in that, well, it's on its third motor. I think it's got 4 transmissions, 2 sets of rear ends. So it's been changed out, but he could change it and he could send that truck off to work. He bought it, he ran it until he retired, and then I took it over and I've been running that truck since then. But that's what you used to be able to do. You used to be able to buy a vehicle and hold on to that vehicle and then get ahead. Now, as an owner-operator, say you buy a truck, you go it, the first 4 or 5 years, that truck has a payment. You pay that truck off. You've still got a good truck for another 4 or 5 years, another 10 years even. Well, now you can afford to buy a second truck. You can grow your business. You can grow your company. If you don't want to grow and you're a single one-off owner-operator, well, now you got a little bit that you can save away for a rainy day fund. You used to see the same thing in agriculture. Guess what? There's no farmers out there that have rainy day funds anymore. Ask how many farmers you know that have rainy day funds, because the equipment is getting so goddamn expensive that you've got to go to a bank, you've got to get it financed, you got to keep it. The equipment's going to lock itself down. You need to pay the dealership, and we're losing all the small town farmers. The truckers that bring us the stuff we need, the farmers that bring us the food we eat, we're losing that middle class. And think about it this way too. Why does it mean so much? Right now, we are producing more than we ever have in human history. Our levels of production, we've got computers, we got robots, we got AI, we got stuff that our grandparents never dreamed of having. We can produce so much crap, but we produce crap.
Indeed. I was just about to stop him. And let's stop that. There we go. I've seen the same trend happen in the aircraft industry for years in the Air Force. Of course, we used to fly our stuff forever, far longer than would normally be flown because we just over-maintain everything. But the Air Force had the ability to tear apart and refurbish and fix a lot of the equipment that is in planes. Now, whether it was transmissions, engines, electronic components, radios, all these things, different shops set up everywhere. At least a battery shop will still be used. But all these shops are now becoming obsolete because we don't use these shops anymore. Everything is either done on the engine stand for the engine or on the wing. Anything more complicated than that, we don't fix those engines. They're shipped up and then sent off for repair. Well, it depends on your plane. Sometimes you have a local shop set up, but the technicians themselves are just becoming more and more parts changers, which is probably the same thing that's happening in the automobile industry. Now, it was announced recently this week as well, or is it last week, but I paid attention to find out about it on the weekend. New line of Hyundai cars coming out. Owners won't be able to change their own brake pads anymore. Yeah. So even the most common sense things, the easy things that anybody with a set of hands could do and learn on their own, being stripped away and taken away for complete control of everything so they can control you. Okay, so Moose on a Loose here. This has to do with what's going on in BC. We've covered this story a little before. Let's have a look at One BC and Moose on a Loose's coverage of this story.
Meanwhile, Dallas Brody has 24,000. So she's a leader of the One BC party, which is basically the actual conservative party of British Columbia. Listen to her ask this question here about them getting attacked at the University of Victoria campus. And David Eby's response is absolutely deplorable.
Immediately after the police marched Professor Widdowson off campus, a land back activist violently assaulted a One BC volunteer, while others threw orange smoke bombs at our chief of staff, a man who is legally blind.
We covered this last week. We showed you the footage of Francis being taken away. Then we showed you the footage that Rebel News had, exactly what she's talking about. And it's funny, right? The cops are there right away to arrest somebody because somebody else is offended. But when there's actual real crime and violence happening, no, not a cop to be found. It's almost like managed decline by the far left, just so they can push their ideology. Wait till you hear the response.
Mob then descended into shrieks and beastly howls. It was like a display of demons. This is all on video, Mr. Speaker, and it's the true face of this decolonization movement. And this is what happens when our universities abandon the search for truth to instead breed violent left-wing mobs, just like Mao did during China's Cultural Revolution.
Member has a question.
Speaker, my question is for the Premier. Will he at least condemn this disgusting political violence and demand that UVic's president, Rabina Thomas, resign in disgrace?
Mr. Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I suspect the member got exactly what she wanted at the university, which was not a considered discussion.
You hear that? She got exactly what she deserved or what she wanted. Yeah. So here you have the Premier of BC basically saying that, yeah, it was okay. It was okay for you people to act like screaming banshees and savages and visit violence upon people for wanting a simple discussion. Here we go, BC Premier. That's the far left mentality. I gotta give it. That's crazy.
Got exactly what she wanted, to get attacked. This is what the Premier of British Columbia just said, that another member of Parliament here, a provincial Parliament, wanted to get attacked at the university. Like, what kind of loser do we have here? How can anyone in their right mind think this is a good person to lead the province? Who voted for this guy?
Which was not a discussion of ideas. She is not in favor of those things. Her conduct is reprehensible. It is embarrassing. It degrades the public's opinion of every elected member in this House. And
what a clown to basically agree with authoritarian shutting down any discussion. And then, of course, they just lie about it like this. It's the same kind of mentality in the Liberal Party.
wish you would stop it.
I wish this guy would disappear from British Columbia and never come back. He's been the biggest disaster of a premier in Canadian history in this province. And with that, the One BC party has just come up with this documentary here, Making a Killing. It's already got almost 50,000 views on it. Breaks down the whole situation, Kamloops, the graves, all that. First Nations were given $12 million to dig it up and prove that this happened. They refused to do that. They just stole taxpayers' money, essentially. They didn't dig anything up. They
Yeah, so when you build your entire narrative on a lie, well, then of course it's going to go crazy. And you have the NDP in the Legislative Assembly in BC agreeing with the lie. It's constant gaslighting by people on the left. You don't agree with them? Oh, they can't use authoritative violence to put you down. Like they don't have any cops nearby to use their bullies to make you agree, or they can't get banks to confiscate your money and close down your bank accounts. Those lie. Those keep pushing the narrative. It's the Alinskyas. Keep pushing the same lie over and over and over again. Never stop. Keep pushing the narrative until finally people bend and get out of the way. Now, a quick little move over here. And this has been all over my my different feeds that I have regarding the COVIDity stupidity, especially because of one of the reasons I've started this channel was to bring attention to the fact that vaccine-injured Canadian Armed Forces members have been abandoned by the Canadian government after they were coerced to take it to keep their jobs, let alone the 10% of the forces that were just let go because we wouldn't take it. Those that were coerced to take it and got sick abandoned duty of care. And there's still a requirement to take 3 jabs when you join. Canadian Forces Directive 003. I say that now, but I didn't check the feed today to see if the order is still on the books. Well, let's assume it is. Doesn't matter anyway, because anybody who took the jabs, well, you probably got the spike protein starting to work inside your body, right? You got spike protein factories, and that was the whole point. It was supposed to be localized. Right here, they'd create some spike proteins, elicit an immune response, and then you'd be ready for the virus, if you got it. Yeah.
The elephant in the room question, if I can, Doctor, which is some of our audience is saying, Charlie, this must be the COVID shot, that it's the mRNA shot. I'm sure you get this question a lot, Doctor. In your expertise, is there any truth to that? Is that something worth looking into? Help us laymen understand how you're thinking about this.
It is very much something we have to look into, and it's not a political thing. It's a really scientific issue. So for us to understand the COVID vaccine as it currently was presented, which was the spike protein, that spike protein was what they call stabilized. And by so doing, it would enter any part of the body together with these, without going too deep into the technicalities, there's lipid carriers. So the question is, would these spike proteins, together with a combined infection, cause replication in the body? And does that explain the myocarditis? Does it explain the autoimmune disease? Does it explain the brain fog? Does it explain the residual replicating viruses in the colon? So absolutely, this needs to be understood and explored. I don't think there's a coincidence between this, what I call turbo cancers. I get calls after calls of patients that were in remission and then got COVID, and now they have cancer.
Yes.
So I think that this immunity underestimated. The beauty is the bioshield can overcome this immunosuppression. The beauty is that this bioshield can clear this virus from the body. And that's what we're in trials now.
Will anyone face consequences or have any sort of judgment or justice for what's been done here? And would you call them crimes?
Are you wearing 7 layers and still freezing your man nipples?
Sorry about that.
You need the new 300.
Yeah. Well, look, I have clear information in my possession of the blockage that has been happening over the last 4 years. And, you notice I said it's not a conspiracy if it's true. I'm not a politician and I'm not a lawyer, but somebody will have to be able to investigate that and look into that. I can't comment on whether it's considered a crime. I consider it a moral issue that we have an obligation to our people in America. And it wouldn't be right if this got approved in the rest of the world first, when actually the innovation came from our country.
So there you have it. He says, look, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not law enforcement, so I can't tell you if it's a crime, but morally seems pretty wrong. And he has evidence that people did know. And he's saying that these spike proteins are causing turbo cancers, that it looks like that's what's happening. And this is a guy that has developed a cancer drug. This is a guy that this is what he's been doing. He's been a transplant doctor and has been, so he's been very familiar with organs and tissues and tumors. And he's saying the spike protein is everywhere. And yeah, the vaccines, of course, especially the type that make spike protein, that turn your body into spike protein factory, are highly problematic and suspect, and that should be looked into more. And this guy owns the LA Times now. So, of course, I don't think his ownership of the LA Times has had any influence on the LA Times, considering, it's still an extremely liberal news organization that wouldn't dare, I think, put this type of, probably would never even interview him about this or quote him about this. But nonetheless, and there was a big stink when he bought the place. They said, oh, this guy. And, I really don't like the idea of these billionaires buying these news organizations, because then they can't implement their own viewpoints into it. And, of course, that's always a danger. I don't know what the alternative is, though. So I got to say, I'm at a loss with that. But it is interesting. I mean, what he's saying is interesting. And so I think we're just starting to see the truth come out about, and obviously, COVID itself is a danger.
So we do know from all the news that come out, they tried to deny it, but then of course the truth come out that this was a bioengineered virus through gain of function, thanks to Fauci. And apparently, after having the shots into people, in combination with getting the COVID, apparently is causing these issues. In some cases, we've heard that people without the vaccine have also had an acceleration in their remissions being canceled and getting cancer again. I've seen this amongst people I know. And it was wondering, like, now we know. Apparently, according to this, you get infected with the virus, and those spike proteins themselves will actually be a stimulator in increasing the rate of cancer. Anecdotally, from what it looks like, but they're saying that they're finding the spike proteins in the tumors. That means that the organs that have been infected that are producing the spike proteins, that's where some of these are ending up in. Did they know this beforehand? Was it engineered to be this way? Who knows? They're still doing statement by members in the lower house at the moment. Would like to have a look at this video if you get a chance. I don't know if anyone here follows Mad Lab Press. He works out of Toronto. He's a retired policeman, and his channel is dedicated to basically uncovering the foxtrottery of the police in all aspects, and security guards as well. People who don't have a concept of the law or basically appreciating it or applying it properly. Or even knowing how to deal with people when it comes to security or the law. And he was dropping off his parents at the Billy Bishop Airport in Toronto, and he has a bit of a thing. So he shows up, and he's got. I'm looking at Kevin Lemurer here in the house, and he's being his typical self, as if he's been asked a question and he's responding. But I just saw this, and they were basically a comment. Anyway, let's go have a look. Looks like they might be into it. Oh, I guess he was responding to a question. Look at him. Look at him wave and wag his finger. Look at them go. Now, is he asking a question? Because it looked like he was doing a statement. Yeah, she's doing a statement by member right there.
Canadians to judge him by their experience at the grocery store. Well, what Canadians see on the shelves now is liberal failure. The food price report confirms what Canadians already know. Food prices are out of control and they're going to get worse. In 2015, when the Liberals took office, the average weekly food bill was about $160. In a decade, it has doubled to $360. That's $17,500 to feed a family of four in Canada. That is unbelievable. And the food price report told Canadians it's going to get worse. The largest increase ever, another $1,000 a year for a family of four. Instead of lowering prices, the Liberals are piling on taxes, making it more expensive to grow food, transport food, and buy the food. Food inflation in Canada is 50% higher than the Liberals' own target. It's rising 48% higher in Canada than it is in the United States. It's time to end the misery. Will they not end their taxes and their hidden taxes on food so Canadians can afford Christmas dinner?
The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Conservative Party of Canada, in particular the leader of the Conservative Party, just doesn't get it.
Nope.
It's about building Canada strong, Mr. Speaker. The budget is there. The support is there for Canadians. And while every Liberal member of Parliament and the Prime Minister is focused on building Canada strong, we get the Conservative Party solely focused on the party's best interest. It's time that they put Canadians' interests first, Mr. Speaker, and that means allowing legislation to pass.
That's right.
Bail reform legislation.
That's right.
Budget legislation.
That's right.
There's only one thing standing in the way of its passage. It's the Conservative Party of Canada and the leader of the Conservative Party. Get off their back ends and get to work.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The honourable leader of the opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Christmas is around the corner, but the Liberals are already acting like the Grinch. Canadians are the ones who should be unhappy because of grocery costs. They want delicious, affordable food, but according to University, Canadians will have to pay more dollars next year for groceries. So it'll be a total of $17,600 a year, and all because of this government's inflationary taxes and deficits. Why is this Liberal government forcing Canadians to feed a big, big government rather than feeding their families? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I know that it's Monday and my colleagues seem happy, yet the Leader of the Opposition seems to be dreaming. He's talking about an imaginary tax. Canadians know better, Mr. Speaker. There's good news in our budget. Our major measure in this budget is a tax break for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. These measures will help Canada grow. We will grow more jobs. We will grow our economy. I hope the Conservatives are going to wake up before Christmas and vote for our budget, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, this Christmas, the Prime Minister is the Grinch of the grocery store. Yep. According to Dalhousie University, the cost of groceries will be up $1,000 in 2026 for a total of $17,600 just to feed a family of four. The Liberal Grinch, who brings in an industrial carbon tax on the farm equipment, fertilizer, and food processors. The Liberal Grinch with a food packaging tax. The Liberal Grinch with a $78 billion inflationary deficit. Will he get rid of all of these hidden grocery taxes so Canadians can feed themselves at Christmas?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, it's Monday and we have good news. Canadians knows it. It's all in the budget, Mr. Speaker. There's a lot of good news. On peut pas lever le livre de cette façon. Là.
One can't raise a book like that. It's one thing to read or quote from it, but we can't wave it around.
Speaker, I understand. I think that the budget would be a great Christmas gift, Mr. Speaker, to all Canadians. I would just hope that the Conservative would wake up and make sure that they vote for the budget before Christmas, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build our nation. We're going to create jobs. We're going to build housing. We're going to create infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, this is the best gift they can give to Canadians. I just hope they'll do the right thing for them.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
If they want to combat their own cost of living crisis, the Liberals would focus on approving pipelines that would sell more oil, boost our Canadian dollar so Canadians could buy affordable food and homes. In fact, there was such a pipeline, the Northern Gateway. Liberals killed it in a 2016 cabinet decision, a decision the Prime Minister supported. They further blocked it with a Liberal ban on tanker traffic off the northwest BC coast. The Prime Minister claims to have changed his mind in a recent MOU. So will he be able to change the minds of fellow Liberals and vote for his own MOU and allow a pipeline to the Pacific?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, it's a sad day because the Conservatives are divided. The Conservative premiers across this country support this MOU in its entirety. The Leader of the Opposition is seeking to divide this country, and we can see through that cynical tactic. The MOU is about building a strong country. It's about doing it in an environmentally responsible way in partnership with Indigenous peoples. It would be great if the opposition joined all the other Conservatives and all of us in building this country strong.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what we're trying to do. In the spirit of Christmas, I decided to take a great act of generosity and lift the words right out of the Prime Minister's MOU in order to support a pipeline to the Pacific and a repeal or an overriding of the Liberal tanker ban. Now, of course, it would mean Liberals would have to admit they were wrong to block that pipeline. They were wrong about the tanker ban. Will, in the spirit of Christmas, Liberals admit they were wrong, vote for their own wording, approve a pipeline, and get rid of the tanker ban?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, in the spirit of Christmas, I'd invite the Leader of the Opposition not to cherry-pick parts of the MOU, but to support the entire MOU, which is what all of the Conservative premiers across this country are doing, which is what this side is doing. It's how we will build strong. Stop being cynical and build this country with us.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Speaker, I think the only division here is that the Prime Minister is divided against himself. The Prime Minister opposed the pipeline to the Pacific. Now he claims he supports it. He supported the tanker ban. Now he claims he opposed it. Mr. Speaker, this is the Prime Minister who said he wanted to keep half of our oil in the ground, and now he pretends to have changed his mind. He signed an MOU. He says one thing in BC, the opposite in Alberta, and here in the House of Commons he hides under his desk. Why would the Prime Minister stand up, take a position, and announce that he's voting in favor of his MOU language to build a pipeline?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Speaker, the Premier of Alberta supports the entire MOU. The Premier of Saskatchewan supports the entire MOU. The Premier of Ontario supports the entire MOU. It would be great if the Conservatives would join us in supporting the entire MOU and building this country strong.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
I think the minister is suggesting that there are parts of his own MOU that he does not support. I mean, the MOU says there would be a pipeline to the Pacific. I took the wording right out of the agreement, that there would be an overriding of the tanker ban. I took the wording for that right out of the MOU. And now the Prime Minister is hiding under his desk. Liberal members on one side of the country are saying they're against, while they're pretending in Alberta that they are in favor. So why don't they stand up in the House of Commons, look Canadians in the eye, take one position, vote for a pipe to the Pacific, and override the tanker?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister and all of us and all Conservative premiers and most people in this country supports every part of that MOU, Mr. Speaker. What's more, the Leader of the Opposition stands in his place and says to the people of Alberta, you know what? That little thing that they said was progress for our province, that made us a leader in renewable technologies, made us a leader in nuclear energy, made us a leader in interties, made us a leader in conventional electricity, that's all off. I just want this one thing. Alberta
L'honorable député de Saint-Jean.
The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, for weeks now, the Conservatives have been working to sabotage Bill C-9 and the Bloc Québécois amendment that would eliminate from the criminal code the religious exception which allows hate speech. But, surprise, surprise, the Conservatives are not alone. We found out that behind the scenes, the Prime Minister's office itself is also sabotaging the work of the Bloc Québécois and of the Minister of Justice. Clearly, on every issue, to find out where the Prime Minister stands, we just need to find out where the Conservatives stand. Why would he rather sabotage his own bill than get rid of the religious exemption?
L'honorable ministre de la Justice.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In order to combat hate throughout the country, we need to take action. In order to do so, this House must pass C-9 so that we can guarantee protection to communities. Now, as for the religious exception, we need to work with different groups and parties to understand different perspectives, but this is the responsibility of the Justice Committee, and I look forward to hearing what they decide after their next meeting. The Honourable Member for Saint-Jean. Mr. Speaker, for 6 years now, 6 years, the Liberal government has been promising legislation to combat hate speech. 6 years of making promises to groups that feel threatened. 6 years of saying that we must take action against hate. For once, their bill had a shot at passing, as long as they got rid of the religious exception, which the National Assembly unanimously supports. Once again, the Liberals backtracked. Why did the Prime Minister side with the Conservatives and the religious right over Quebec and over groups that are worried?
L'honorable ministre de la Justice.
The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, it's clear that we have a responsibility to fight crime in general, including hate crime. Our government has a responsibility to put forward measures to combat hatred. It's our duty, for instance, to improve legislation.
To fight crime in this country. We've seen delay and obstruction come from the Conservative part. I look forward to collaborating with all parties in a minority parliament, and I will look forward very much to the recommendations from the Justice Committee as they consider potential amendments to the current bill.
L'honorable député.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, last Thursday, members of the Justice Committee were set to vote on repealing the religious exemption, but the Liberals cancelled the committee meeting, and everything suggests that they will cancel it again tomorrow and Thursday. The Liberals are reneging on their agreement with the Bloc Québécois, and they are letting Quebecers down. The Liberals are pulling the plug on C-9. The Prime Minister is rebuking his Justice Minister for choosing Quebec's side over that of right-wing religious groups. The Liberals' great concern about combating hate seems to be falling by the wayside, Mr. Speaker. How will they justify their about-face?
There has been a campaign to of Bill C-9 that everyone has been pushing for people to call their MPs and tell them to vote no. It's not a right-wing conspiracy like these far-left morons would like you to think it is. Everybody, look at the bill, authoritarian control and arrest without warrant. That's what these guys are supporting. That's what these Bloc Québécois people are supporting. And the fact that they want to ban religious passages because they think it's hate.
After so many broken promises. The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Particular this country and to offer protections for minorities, including religious minorities, who are facing hate. My priority is to see this bill adopted so we can offer protections for communities who frankly don't deserve to be faced with the hate crimes that they have been subjected to. That's going to require that we collaborate with different parties who have different points of view. I thank my colleague for the conversations that we've been able to share. I look forward to seeing the decision that's going to be taken, not by an individual minister, but by the Justice Committee as they consider potential amendments going forward. I very much look forward to see the results of those deliberations, and I hope we can see the swift adoption of this bill.
The honourable member for Foothills.
The Prime Minister said that he should be judged by the price of food at the grocery store. Well, the food price report gave the Liberals a failing grade. It confirmed that food prices are going to increase $1,000 a family next year, a cost they simply can't afford. But Canadians didn't need a report to tell them that. They are experiencing it every single day. Canadian food banks are on the brink. In Foothills, the Okotoks Food Bank served more than 21,000 families last year. That is unbelievable. Why is the Prime Minister forcing Canadians to food banks instead of reducing taxes on farmers, fuel, and food?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Likes to talk about farmers, but let's talk about what farmers were going through last year. 66% of agricultural land in Canada was experiencing drought, extreme drought, Mr. Speaker, which drove up prices of beef. And not only that, Mr. Speaker, all across the world, prices for imports like coffee and tea and cocoa and strawberries and oranges went up as a result of climate change, Mr. Speaker. We focus on the things we can control, and you know what we can control? Putting more money in the pockets of Canadians. Why won't they get on board?
The honourable member for Foothills.
This didn't happen yesterday. A decade ago, when the Liberals took office, the average weekly food bill was about $160 a week. A decade later, it has doubled to $340 a week. That's $17,500 to feed a family of four. That is unbelievable in a country like Canada. And our Canadian food banks can't manage the load. And these aren't just strangers. These are friends, families, co-workers, neighbors, all relying on food banks. Why is the Prime Minister sticking to his ideology, increasing taxes to grow the food, transport the food, and buy the food, instead of lowering those taxes so Canadians...
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
We're not focused on imaginary taxes. We're focused on what actually helps Canadians. And you know what helps Canadians, Mr. Speaker? More money in their pockets. A decade ago, the Canada Child Benefit was worth up to $6,000. It's now worth up to $7,200, Mr. Speaker. It's kept pace with inflation. It's made sure that families have what they need to buy those children the food they need. And Mr. Speaker, we haven't stopped there. Everything we do is focused on making sure Canadians can weather the tides, no matter their good times or bad.
The honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
This Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Well, the results are in, and the Liberals have failed. In my community of Brantford, City Council declared a food insecurity emergency. Liberal inflationary spending is causing a run at food banks. Grocery bills have doubled, and the outlook for 2026 is even worse. After all this damage, will these Liberals finally admit that their taxes and reckless spending caused this crisis and scrap them now before even more Canadians go hungry?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let's drill down into the report everybody seems to be talking about. Let's quote, food prices are influenced by a variety of global factors, including climate change, geopolitical conflicts, input and energy costs, food distribution, food processing, and regulations. Mr. Speaker, it's not the Liberal Party. It's what's happening around the world, everywhere around the world. Let's get serious about this and help Canadians.
The honourable member for Brantford, Brant South, Six Nations.
Canadians are tired of excuses. They want groceries they can afford. 100%. On the food price report, they put it bluntly, if 2025 was difficult for Canadian households, 2026 won't be easier. After the most expensive Prime Minister in Canadian history has already shattered household budgets and forced families into desperation, Canadians are now being told the pain will only deepen. Will the Prime Minister commit today, yes or no, to scrapping the industrial carbon tax and the fuel tax on food production, or will he keep choosing ideology over empty stomachs?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we've already gone down this path. Canadian Climate Institute has come out and said that it's non-negligible in the price of food. The industrial carbon tax is 0.008. Mr. Speaker, we know definitely well that that's not the case. There's other factors in the world that are taking place. A geopolitical trade war, climate change, drought in the prairie provinces. These are all adding to the rise in cost of food, Mr. Speaker. They know that, so let's get on board and treat Canadians fair.
The honourable member for Cambridge.
Mr. Speaker, no one expected the verdict to be this tragic when judging the Prime Minister by prices at the grocery store. I heard from an 82-year-old woman who was forced to leave her hometown of Cambridge and her family just to afford groceries and rent. And Lacey, a single mom from Cambridge, told local media she spends her days asking, where's the sale? Clipping coupons and skipping meals just to feed her son. This is the reality for thousands of Canadians. Families are forced to buy whatever they can afford, not what's healthy or good for them, if they eat at all. So when so many families, seniors and working adults are going hungry, how can this government possibly justify any more inflationary talk?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, that leader's heart was 2 sizes too small when it comes to delivering affordability for Canadians. We cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We cut the tax for first-time homebuyers. We are continuing to deliver on affordability, school food program, personal service support, tax credit. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we're focused on affordability. It's time for that leader to let the light in, let his heart grow, join us in delivering affordability for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister told Canadians that he should be judged on the cost of groceries. Well, I hope he has a good lawyer because the verdict is brutal. According to Le Journal de Montréal, 36% of Quebecers are experiencing food insecurity. What's most tragic in all this is that 41% of them are employed. Hunger is hitting so hard that Quebec food banks responded to, get this, a record 3.1 million requests in 1 month. When will the Lee's Liberals finally stop their inflationary spending so that Canadians can feed themselves properly, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Secretary of State for Children and Youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our investments are helping families. Budget 2025 contains many investments for children and families. This includes the school food program, which will help families save up to $800 a year. There's also the Canada Child Benefit, which can be about $8,000 a year for up to $8,000 a year for children under 6. We are here for Canadian families and children on this side of the House. The Honourable Member for Bellechasse, Les Etchemins, Lévis. Well, Mr. Speaker, what they're doing is just not working. And there's a family in my riding of 2 adults and 3 children. They are suffocated by the cost of living. They're spending the winter in a trailer. They were so ashamed that they didn't dare ask for food. A frontline worker was the one who alerted the food bank. Now the food price report confirms that groceries will cost $1,000 more next year. When will this Prime Minister stop his inflationary spending to give dignity back to Quebecers, Mr. Speaker? The Honourable Secretary of State. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, we take these matters very seriously. We are not fixating on imaginary taxes. We are here to help Canadian families. One of our first measures was to give a tax break to 22 million Canadians. That's how we are helping children. That's how we're helping families. And this is the work we are doing. The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes Verchères. Mr. Speaker, Washington is calling on the federal government to do more to combat the problem of discount drivers. Even Americans are fed up with these dangerous drivers on our roads and on theirs. Now, yes, the Liberals have taken up our request to force companies to report the income of self-employed drivers, but the American embassy has told them that while this is a step in the right direction, it is not a cure-all. The Bloc Québécois suggested 10 measures. The Liberals only took 1 of them. And now they think the job is done, Mr. Speaker. As for the 9 other measures, they are shirking what they should be doing. When will they take the issue seriously? The Honourable Minister of Transport. Quite the opposite, Mr. Speaker. We take this matter very seriously, which is why we have put forward tangible measures, tax measures, information sharing measures, as well as measures in the Canada Labour Code. We are taking action. And do you know what? Surprise, surprise, the Bloc Québécois voted against our budget. The very same budget which will fix this federal issue of Chauffeur Inc. and will help us move forward on this file. So I hope the Bloc Québécois...
No. This is the same committee that you guys ran out of last week. It's not fucking done.
The Honourable Member for Pierre Boucher, Les Patriotes, Verchères. If the Liberals had done enough to address the problem of low-cost drivers, the United States would not be demanding that they do their job. Washington is growing impatient. We need an official inquiry to shed light on this industry. The industry exploits workers, and especially foreign workers. The industry is spreading like cancer. We must prevent temporary immigrants from working in the trucking industry. We need a public registry of offending companies, including penalties. Not only are the Liberals failing to act, they are obstructing the committee's work. How many more road accidents will it take for the Liberals to finally wake up and do something?
Monsieur le Président.
The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, now we've truly seen it all. The member knows full well that provinces are the ones who certify truck drivers. Provinces are the ones who inspect the trucks. Provinces are the ones who hire road controllers. And it's the same in the United States. They have states which issue driver's licenses and send their truckers up to Canada. The Bloc Québécois, for the first time in Bloc Québécois history, is asking the federal government to meddle with provincial areas of jurisdiction. Unbelievable, Mr. Speaker.
Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
The Prime Minister told Canadians that he should be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Well, most ask Santa Sarah from Go Clean Co. for something they wouldn't normally buy for themselves, a new winter coat or a fancy new vacuum. But this year there were more asks for needs than wants. One mom from Kelowna asked for groceries. This mom shared that after rent was paid and putting $10 of gas into her car, she was left with $3 for the next 2 weeks and a baby in diapers. Does the Prime Minister think that people asking Santa for groceries is okay in this country?
The honourable member for
Mr. Speaker, our
women
government
and
is
gender
taking
equality.
real action on affordability, protecting women's economic security, and empowering women across the country. We're introducing a middle-class tax cut that's going to benefit 22 million Canadians across the country, and we're making the National School Food Program permanent. This is going to feed kids at school while putting more money back into their pockets, and we're making housing more affordable through Build Canada Homes. This is going to help single mothers and keep families, give them a safe place to live. We're also making auto tax filing for 5.5 million Canadians. This is real impact for Canadians, and that includes women and families across the country, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable member for Fort McMurray Cold Lake.
Liberal food inflation is crippling Canadian families. The Prime Minister told Canadians to judge him at the price of the grocery store, and he's failing. More and more Canadians are relying on charity simply to make ends meet. 33% of food bank users are children, and infant formula is in high demand at food banks, which is no surprise. A container now costs nearly $50, up 84% in the last 8 years. Does the Prime Minister care that feeding babies has become a daily struggle for Canadian families? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my heart goes out to parents facing challenges, and we care about families. So while Conservatives amplify panic instead of offering a single solution, the evidence is clear. Research from the C.D. Howe Institute confirms that the Canada Child Benefit is one of the most effective tools we have to reduce child poverty and help families afford essentials. Let's be honest, Mr. Speaker, Conservatives voted against this. They voted against it then. They voted against supports now for families and children. Mr. Speaker, and their actions speak louder for themselves, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much.
The honourable member for Newmarket Aurora.
They always say that conservatives never have any ideas, never have any solutions. But that's always a lie, obviously, because they had solutions provided in their platform at the election.
Prime Minister once said that the grocery aisle would be his report card. Well, today in that aisle is a mother standing still, staring at the price of baby formula that has gone up 84%. She does the math in her head and wonders what she's going to cut next because feeding her baby is not optional. Under these Liberals, even that has become a source of fear and anxiety. Their policies have driven up the cost of growing, shipping and selling the food. When will this Liberal government stop piling on taxes and stop their inflationary spending and let mothers afford the formula their babies need to thrive?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Speaker, while the opposition focuses on imaginary taxes, we're focused on real supports for Canadians, and that includes, Mr. Speaker, a Canada Child benefit that keeps up with inflation, seniors benefits that keep up with inflation, a dental care plan that allows for Canadians to get their teeth fixed for God's sake, Mr. Speaker, something that these Conservatives vote against time and again. I ask myself, Mr. Speaker, what support for Canadian would they actually vote for? Because for them, it's sink or swim.
The Honourable Member for Brandon Souris.
The Prime Minister told Canadians he would be judged by the cost of groceries. Well, the 60,000 Manitobans who are lined up at food banks each month have judged him. They judged him based on grocery prices that they haven't come down. They judged him because even though they are working multiple jobs, they aren't able to put food on their own tables. They have done everything right, and this Prime Minister has failed them. So the question is very simple. When will these Liberals end their inflationary spending and taxes so Canadians can afford to put food on their own kitchen tables again?
Yes, sir. The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, this is a party that voted against targeting the Canada Child benefit to those that needed it the most. This is a party that voted against dental care for seniors. This is a party that voted against the school food program. Mr. Speaker, time and time again, this party has voted against affordability programs. Canadians can judge. Canadians know on this side of the House, we're focused on delivering affordability for Canadians. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That's right.
Honourable Member for Brandon Souris.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know the truth about that side of the House, and it's that under them, their grocery bills are still going up. What the Liberals have done has made life more expensive, not less. How much worse does it have to get before these Liberals realize that there are disastrous tax hikes, packaging standards, and out-of-control spending that is responsible for 60,000 Manitobans now having to rely on food banks each month just to eat? How can these guys live with themselves? Will they take ownership, cut the red tape and the spending, and bring affordability grocery prices back for hungry Canadians?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
That member and that party seriously, frankly, Mr. Speaker, because in the budget is actually contained a tax cut for 22 million Canadians, Mr. Speaker. They stand in the progress of that bill being advanced to help support Canadians. They voted against the National Food School Program, Mr. Speaker. And talking about food, Mr. Speaker, there was not one single thing in the Conservative platform for farmers in this country in April of 2025. That's why we're on this side of this House, Mr. Speaker. We're working for agricultural producers. We're working to help reduce taxes and to help support Canadians across this country, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, residents of Carleton have made it clear they want leadership and an economic vision for the country. Budget 2025 taxes for 22 million Canadians, makes the National Food Program for children.
Okay, I think we all got off on the wrong foot on that one.
Congratulations on your maiden speech.
So let's order to the Honourable Member. Order. We'll have to take that one from the top. Okay?
Mr. Speaker, residents of Carleton have made it very clear they want real leadership and an economic vision for this country. Budget 25 cuts taxes for 22 million Canadians, makes permanent the National School Food Program, and invests tens of billions of dollars in infrastructure and major projects across the country. These are actions that will improve the lives of Canadians. Can the Minister of Finance update this House on how the Budget Implementation Act will help strengthen our economy, and why is it being stalled?
The Honourable Minister Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, even the Conservative can feel the passion in that question, Mr. Speaker. But the people of Carleton will know, Mr. Speaker, that there's only one reason and one reason alone why these key pieces of legislations have not yet been passed, Mr. Speaker, and it's the opposition partisan game, Mr. Speaker. Even ahead of Christmas, Mr. Speaker, they're stopping legislation for first-time home buyers, Mr. Speaker. They're stopping the creation of tens of thousands of jobs, Mr. Speaker. They're stopping the National School Food Program, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we're going to build Canada.
The honourable member for Calgary East.
Wants to believe he disagrees with everything that he wrote about pipelines over the last 10 years. He supported Liberals cancelling a West Coast pipeline in 2016 in his 2021 committee testimony. The Liberals' tanker ban off the West Coast makes a pipeline impossible. Will Liberals admit they were wrong on pipelines, wrong on the tanker ban, and vote for our motion to approve a pipe to the Pacific, remove the tanker ban, just like the Prime Minister promised Alberta in the MOU?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, it's really sad that the Conservatives are divided, because the Premier of Alberta supports the entire MOU. The Premier of Saskatchewan supports the entire MOU. The Premier of Ontario supports the entire MOU. The cynical ploy to pick and choose. Canadians can see through that, Mr. Speaker. Why don't they come on board with all of us and all the provinces and vote for Building Canada?
Honourable member for Calgary East.
Talking out of both sides of their mouth. The Prime Minister tells his Keep It in the Ground caucus, no pipeline. He tells Alberta there will be one. He says he supports a tanker ban, but then promises to override it. He's going to flip-flop on the pipeline until after the election, pretending he wants to build one without ever offending his loony left Liberals. Will he stand up to keep it in the Ground caucus? Get it?
The honourable member wasn't targeting a specific MP on this side, but it still wasn't maybe the nicest language. You may continue.
The Prime Minister talks out of both sides of his mouth. He tells the Keep It in the Ground caucus no pipeline while promising Albertans there will be. He says he supports a tanker ban, then promises to override it. He's going to flip-flop on the pipeline until after the election, pretending he wants to build.
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I would invite the member opposite to read the entire MOU. And then maybe he could join the Premier of his province and support the MOU like all of us and all of the other premiers. Why doesn't he get on board and build Canada strong?
The Honourable Member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
A decade ago, this Liberal government killed the Northern Gateway pipeline, which would have shipped 525,000 barrels of Canadian oil per day to Asian markets. The value of that oil would have been billions coming annually into the Canadian economy. Instead of that economic supercharge, Liberals enacted crushing policies with no environmental benefit while doubling Canada's debt. That Liberal political decision greatly benefited the economies of other oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Venezuela, and Russia. But what did Canadians get from that sacrifice other than a mountain of new Liberal debt?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister has answered that question a number of times already today. What is clear to me is that the Conservative Party doesn't see the need to be investing in our economy. Mr. Speaker, we put forward a plan in the form of a budget, and that budget sees over $50 billion going straight into the community of each and every member of Parliament in this room, Mr. Speaker. It is going to create community centres, recreational centres. It's going to create local infrastructure that is going to benefit Canadian families from coast to coast to coast, and the Conservatives seem to be against everything that is good for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Leduc-Wetaskiwin.
Back to the actual topic. The Liberal MP from Victoria defiantly stated that he is, quote, decisively not in support. The Liberal Member of Parliament for Vancouver-Granville has said that it must have BC's consent. The Liberal MP for Fleetwood Port Kells went further, saying that any pipeline, quote, must have the consent of the Premier of British Columbia. Without support from that one Canadian, he said emphatically, quote, there will be no pipeline. Will the Prime Minister stand up to his Keep It in the Ground caucus, or is his real plan to simply delay any pipeline until after the next election when he can kill it?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
I don't know if that member's saying that we should be building a pipeline without having partnerships with First Nations over the objections of the democratic and duly elected province and government of British Columbia. I don't know that that's what that member's saying. It seems to be what he's saying. If he could perhaps clarify for this House and for the people of Alberta and British Columbia, that would be very helpful. For our part, we're going to work with British Columbia, we're going to work with First Nations, and we're going to execute this MOU, every part of it, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Caribou Prince George.
Prime Minister promised Canadians he would build now and move at unimaginable speeds.
He did.
But eight months later, all we have is a questionable MOU that punts pipeline proposal down the road. It doesn't create jobs. It doesn't boost the economy. All it does is give Premier Eby another excuse to keep saying over my dead body. The Constitution is clear. BC has no veto. So why are the Liberals stalling? Will the Liberals admit they were wrong and vote for our motion to approve a pipeline like the Prime Minister said he would?
Good question.
Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, this time it's from a Member of Parliament from British Columbia. The Member of Parliament from British Columbia wishes to now let it be known that he would stomp all over the duly elected government of the province of British Columbia, stomp all over Indigenous and First Nations involvement in any such advances. The member wants it to be made very clear that there is only one part of that entire MOU that appeals to him. For our part, we like it all, we're working on it all, and we're going to work with others to get it done.
The Honourable Member for Caribou Prince George.
We are hemorrhaging jobs at a staggering rate in BC. Over the last 2 weeks, thousands of British Columbians have lost their jobs because of this Prime Minister. The pipeline will create jobs and make our economy self-reliant. We need this. Our nation needs this.
Hear, hear.
But the Liberals can't get their story straight. One MP says no pipeline without BC's consent, and the member from Victoria says he's decisively not in support. They say one thing to one group and another to another group. How can Canadians take this government seriously when they can't get their story straight and can't get their caucus in line?
That's right.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Let's talk a little bit about British Columbia, the single province with the most projects of national significance, the most capital investment announced, the largest capital investment in the history of this country announced by my colleague, the Minister of Natural Resources. But if that's not enough, Mr. Speaker, how about 3 straight months of job growth? How about inflation down? How about wages up over the rate of inflation? How about celebrating the economic progress?
You know, he's been acting like a crazy fascist and screaming and waving his finger like this, like he does all the time, does not endear him to Canadians. It makes him look like a crazy man.
And the successes of this country instead of sitting over there and talking Canada down.
The Honourable Member for Okanagan Lake West, South Kelowna.
Told Canadians he would be judged by the prices at the grocery store. And in British Columbia, food bank use is entrenched, with about 1/4 of families food insecure. A family of 4 will pay about $1,000 more for food next year. We know this out-of-touch Prime Minister doesn't do his own shopping, but Canadians still have to pay at the till. Will he admit to BC families that he doesn't know a thing about grocery prices and that under these Liberals, higher bills are the new normal, or will he adopt conservative ideas to make life more affordable, like cutting inflationary spending and ending the industrial carbon tax?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, again, it's hard to take that member and that party seriously on the questions when in the platform of April 2025, that member has a lot of farmers in his riding, Mr. Speaker. They're the ones who contribute in this country. Not a single platform commitment from the Conservative Party for farmers in this country, Mr. Speaker. It's hard to take that member opposite when he votes against the National Food School Program, Mr. Speaker. 400,000 Canadians benefit, young children in this country. He votes against it. How about tax cuts, Mr. Speaker? That used to be the party that stood for that. They're standing in the way in this House of passing this budget 2025, which is good for Canadians, Mr. Speaker.
Also, member for Cloverdale, Langley City.
This Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Well, I heard from Amy in Cloverdale. She lives in a household of 2, doesn't have children of her own, and still can't keep up with groceries. When she heard more increases are coming, she wondered if the ultimate goal is to force people to crawl on their hands and knees begging and pleading for relief. For Amy, meat's a luxury, and she's terrified for the future of her 5 nephews. Amy asked me, when will it stop? So when will the Prime Minister finally stop driving up food costs so Canadians can afford to feed themselves?
The Honourable Minister of Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, I know the people in British Columbia are concerned about prices, and we are too. We're taking care of them. They want a government that's going to stand with them. That's why we're investing in the National School Food Program to support 400,000 families. That's why we're investing in supports for seniors, and it's why we're investing in supports for families to take care of their children. Mr. Speaker, we're going to stand with British Columbians. We're going to stand with all Canadians and take care of them.
The Honourable Member for Kamloops, Shuswap, Central Rockies.
This Prime Minister told Canadians he should be judged by prices at the grocery store. Well, food bank visits have increased up to 80% in BC. The Kamloops Food Bank had almost 74,000 business visits last year, and the number keeps growing. Now donations are dropping, and food banks are reducing service areas to remain sustainable, cutting off rural areas from support. When will the Liberals cut their inflationary spending, their industrial carbon tax, and their new fuel tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, that Conservative member talks about food prices, and yet he voted against making the National School Food Program permanent, Mr. Speaker. That is a program that helps young people, that helps school-aged children eat food in order to learn better, Mr. Speaker. This morning I made an announcement at a women's shelter in Montreal that our government has funded in order to help women find a secure and safe place to call home, Mr. Speaker. The Conservatives are against supporting our frontline workers, whether it's in the food industry, whether it's our shelters, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-des-Mille-Îles. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Strengthening economic security also means protecting the dignity and financial peace of mind of seniors, including fraud against seniors, which is a major political issue. Did you know who said that, Mr. Speaker? The member for Shefford. And we agree, and that is the reason for which it is so disappointing to see the Bloc Québécois delaying Bill C-15. Could the Minister of Finance remind those who are intentionally delaying this bill how their partisan manoeuvring has a real impact on our seniors? The Honourable Minister for Finance. Mr. Speaker, financial fraud is a serious problem that disproportionately affects seniors, newcomers and other vulnerable populations. That is the reason for which in Budget 2025 and Bill C-15 we are taking decisive action to strengthen enforcement and ensure that Canadians can have confidence in the security and resilience of their financial systems. Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois is against this. What a shock. It's difficult to understand why the Bloc would be against helping our seniors. What's easy to understand is that the 44 members of the Quebec Liberal caucus will defend seniors.
Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister told Canadians to judge him by the prices at the grocery store. 8 months have passed, and now Canada's food price report says that Canadian families should expect to pay an extra $1,000 for groceries in 2026. In total, grocery bills have doubled under the Liberals to $340 per week. When will these Liberals cut their inflationary spending, the industrial carbon tax, and their new fuel tax so Canadians can afford to eat?
That's right.
The Honourable Excuse me, Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Community Resilience.
Mr. Speaker, we've cut taxes for 22 million Canadians. We're building affordable homes. We're making it easier for young people to buy homes, creating thousands of jobs by investing in our economy. The easiest way for Conservatives to make life more affordable to Canadians is to support our plan and Budget 25. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent, Akia Wenrak. Mr. Speaker, this government's economic policies don't work. Grocery bills have gone up, have doubled over the last 10 years under the Liberal government, and will cost $1,000 more next year. Food banks can't handle it. In Saint-André-le-Châtel, there will be 200 Christmas baskets handed out, 70 more than last year. In the Caisse Saint-Ambroise, 325 Christmas baskets are being prepared. There is one food bank that has already reached their quota. Some people who need this basket won't get one. Will the Liberals finally understand that their policy and politics simply do not work? The Honourable Member. What makes us different than the Conservatives is that on this side we believe that we need a strong economy to protect the most vulnerable. A strong economy. 54,000 jobs created in November, 60,000 in September. Unemployment is going down. Inflation is going back into Bank of Canada provisions, forecasts. But they never voted for. Not only that, they keep voting against the dental care system, the National Food Programme, the child benefit system. So, Mrs. Speaker, the Conservative hypocrisy is simply alarming. The Honourable Member for Bonneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Speaking of hypocrisy, they've implemented programs for the last 10 years, but nothing's working. In my riding, I went around 17 food banks that are preparing Christmas hampers for people, and they have all said that the number of requests have gone up. The Prime Minister needs to come down from his ivory tower, needs to go down in the field and stop. He needs to stop with inflationary taxes. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we have said it again and again. The Conservatives keep talking about imaginary taxes. Inflation is going down here in Canada, and we are here to meet the needs of Canadians. The Conservatives, however, voted against all the measures in the budget that will help people make ends meet, including our school food program that will help our children. Can you imagine that, Mr. Speaker?
For Guelph.
Mr. Speaker, Budget 2025 contains many comprehensive measures to help make life more affordable for Canadians while helping grow the economy. Open banking promotes competition and affordability by letting Canadian consumers and businesses take advantage of cutting-edge technologies and share their financial data with approved and regulated service providers. Can the Secretary of State for Financial Institutions please outline why open banking is so important to the Canadian economy and how stalling progress on this file is harming Canadian consumers and businesses?
Good question. Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, open banking will give Canadians more control over their own financial data, allowing them to securely choose the services that work best for their needs. It will increase competition, lower costs, and help families get better budgeting tools, faster access to credit, and tailored financial products. These are common sense measures that the opposition is obstructing by delaying our budget bill, Mr. Speaker. I urge that Conservative leader to let his heart grow over Christmas. Put the partisan games aside and join us in building a strong and resilient Canadian economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Montmorency-Charlevoix. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the Conflict of Interest Act, it is clearly noted that ministerial staff, for example, are not allowed to get any gifts or other benefits. The Journal de Montréal stated this morning that 10 people connected to the Liberal Party of Canada received $1,000 each for services rendered during the last leadership race for the current leader of the Liberal Party of Quebec. Can the Prime Minister finally explain to Quebecers what's all this Liberal flim-flamming about?
La loi sur les conflits d'intérêts? Loi sur les conflits.
The Conflict of Interest Act doesn't apply. Does not apply to the province. This is a federal statute.
Est-ce que quelqu'un veut prendre la question?
Does anyone want to answer that one? The Leader of the Government in the House. Mr. Speaker, like the member and Canadians know full well, provincial and federal parties are independent from one another. Canadians can get involved in provincial politics. If someone does so, it's on a personal level, and we, of course, expect all staff members and former.
What a hypocrite. This is this earlier screaming about how all the conservative premier in Ontario, conservative premier in Saskatchewan, conservative premier in Alberta, and that the conservatives need to, unscrew themselves because they're not following the same pattern because, they're all conservatives. Now here he is. Oh, as you know, provincial and liberal parties. Whatever, moron.
The government act in an exemplary fashion with regards to every statute.
Nunavut's fishery is an underdeveloped economic engine, as QIA keeps saying. As a result of Liberal decisions, BC and Newfoundland hold more than 80% interest in their coastal fisheries, but Nunavut gets only half. Fisheries infrastructure like the deep sea force in Qikqtarjuaq is left unfinished. Will the Liberals finally treat Inuit like a full economic partner so they can benefit from local resources?
The Honourable Minister of Fisheries and Oceans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to reassure my colleague across the aisle that the conversations are still happening, no decision has been made, and I encourage the participation as we move forward before making a decision. Thank you.
It being 3:11, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the amendment of Mr. Jennis to the motion at second reading stage of Bill C-15. Call in the members.
Okay. Well, that was the question period today. There was some things that were not brought up that made the news this weekend. Maybe tomorrow. Well, on our way out the door, we will show you just a bit, just the intro to what was happening in the House after question period last Friday. There was continuing discussions regarding medical assistance in dying. So I just want to show you the beginning of a little video that we put, and then we'll go into our outro, and we will see you tomorrow. Thank you all for coming by. Please leave some comments, like, share, subscribe. I really appreciate all my followers and subscribers. Please let your friends know. And let me find that supplement here. Right, see you tomorrow.
None of that would have been possible had I been successful when I attempted to end my life. And I think of my own experience and the many others like it. When I reflect on the fact that in just 15 months' time, someone who was in the place that I was in 15 years ago would be able to have not only the state's permission, but the state's help to end their life by suicide.
a meeting, during the middle of the meeting, they suspended and ran out the back door.
Says Risk, that is shameful. A Conservative notice of motion has been filed condemning this misconduct. The Liberal chair must decide, is he a political operative serving the government or an impartial chair?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that, Mr. Speaker.
Too bad that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Canada know that this government has their back. There's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Hey, of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest. And
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.